What's good, everybody? Oh no. You know, a little while ago, I started talking about how fighting games have a lot of issues. And one of the big things I brought up was netcode. I talked about user experience. I talked about single player modes. I talked about training mode. I talked about online rematch. After I complained about those features, a lot of people really resonated with the video and said stuff like, you know, when I play fighting games, I think the same things. Then I made a video that said, I don't think fighting games are inherently harder to learn than almost any other genre of competitive game. I think it's about pretty similar. Everybody was so mad about that. They're all like, what do you mean fighting games are just the worst? And I figured we'd pivot again. I said, well, we said a bad thing about fighting games. We said something that's not that bad about fighting games. Let's say something bad about fighting games again. We'll win them back. One of the things that I will say about fighting games is I think our in-game tutorials are not very good. And I'm talking about when you launch a fighting game, what you see on the menu is single player, multiplayer or local player, whatever, training mode and tutorial mode and mission mode. Those are like the normal things that you see on there, right? So you click on the tutorial as you would do with any game. Generally, when you get on and you play a fighting game tutorial, even the ones that I think are good, there's some big issues, I think, with how they are created and the way they work. One of the biggest issues about our tutorials is just how dense they are and just how much it tries to teach you so fast. There is so much information that they just front load and hit you at the very beginning of the game. And when you play a tutorial, it just really like you have to get through all of these different, all right, so here's how I move. Here's how I backdash. Here's my normals. Here's my command normals. Here's my special moves. Here's my, what the fuck's a just frame burst grid? Okay, this is a super special move. This is a weapon flipping move. This is and by the time you get through like all of these tutorials, you've been taught everything from how a character moves to 9 different system mechanics in a fighting game. And the thing is when you do a tutorial and you finish, you kind of feel like you should know everything you just learned in the tutorial. When I finish a tutorial, I'm like, okay, I finished a tutorial for this game. What the fuck were all the mechanics it taught me? There was like a special move, there's a meter, there's like a special meter you get when you lost a lot of life. There's like, so I will remember what they are because I've played a lot of fighting games. But I've played a lot of fighting games. You can imagine somebody who's brand new, and really what this tutorial needs to be teaching them is moving, blocking, regular normals. That's all they really need to know. There is more advanced things that you can teach them after that, but it's like a lot of information overloaded at you right away. Even the units tutorial, as great as it is, teaches you option selects and stuff in its tutorial, and the language in it is obviously translated or doesn't quite fit in well with how it's supposed to be. A lot of the people in this chat, you guys play a lot of fighting games, but I think you overestimate how overwhelming this tutorial is for someone who is brand new to fighting games. In particular, because you feel like you should complete the tutorial before you start. Even if it's beginner, intermediate, and advanced tutorial, it still feels like, well, I should probably be able to finish the tutorial before I, go online and play or something like that. And I think what I would like to see instead is more fighting game tutorials that teach you like really basic, simple things, especially stuff tied into single player content or tied into daily missions or tied into unlocking outfits or skins or something like that, where you really take the things players need to learn as a new player, the very basic things they need to learn, and reward them for not only learning it, but like trying to do this tutorial and improve. And if they can just teach you to do, when they're on the ground, hit this button, when they're in the air, do this anti-air. They've already taught you more than really what a lot of tutorials will end up teaching you. And I think that would be like a much better way to do it than something like some normals are used for this, some normals are used for that. This is how the super special move works, which is how our tutorials are now. Just boom, 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 boom. Yeah, some people are saying, well, these tutorials teach you all the stuff you need to know. It teaches you everything about the game and how it works and stuff like that. The thing is like, does it? It's not teaching you in the way a teacher would teach you or like a human would teach you. It's teaching you in the way of like, let me just dump all this information at you. I'm going to just drop it all on you. Here's all of it works. You have to pass by doing this specific thing. Once you do that, you must know it. That's not the case a lot of times when you're learning. You don't just learn and say, okay, I read this, I know it now. You have to give someone a repetition and you have to give someone some practice and you need some structure to really learn something. You can't just throw all this information at them. Oh, you walked back 5 times, you walked forward 5 times. You now know how all movement works. Let's just go on to, system mechanics. It's like, now hold on. I'm not saying that many games have great tutorials like this. I'm saying that this is just an example of the kind of tutorial that I think you can experiment with. I think that this is the kind of stuff that can be built into single player modes or like daily missions or even something like Mortal Kombat's towers, right? I was looking up tutorials last night to try to get an example of some other games and how they handle tutorials and stuff, and I watched the League of Legends tutorial. They have a video on YouTube that's like a League of Legends basic tutorial. It's pretty recent, actually. When I played it, I don't think it existed. And one of the cool things about this tutorial is that while it's there, they teach you how the item shop works. And it says like, hey, when you first start, don't worry. Everything's really confusing and stuff. There's these recommended items. So, when you buy items, your character becomes stronger. And in the beginning, you don't really know what to buy, so don't worry about it. We have recommended stuff listed here. I was just imagining if a fighting game tutorial did something similar to that, where it was like, okay, in the beginning, you want to just use your ground attack and your anti-air if they jump. If you miss an anti-air or if you forget these two things, it's okay. It happens to all of us. Like, this shit's gonna happen, but it's okay. This tutorial is always here if you want to come back and do it, and this is the basics of what you want to do. Even stuff like, I wish a fighting game move list had a recommended attacks section in the fighting game move list where it said pokes and it said like medium kick. This standing medium kick is useful for when your opponents are on the ground, and it maybe even showed like a screenshot on the screen of this is the range where the standing medium kick hits. Great when they're in this range. It'd be great if it said recommended anti-airs. That would be awesome, right? If it listed that in training mode. There are some move lists that do this kind of stuff, but it's not quite as comprehensive as something that's built in usually into the game, right? But that's what I mean, right? It's like, this is the way fighting game tutorials can be designed or can be changed to be better. I think currently the way they're done, its goal is to present all the information in the fighting game to you and make sure that you do it all to pass whatever the mode is. I think there are some good tutorials that have everything, but they're only really good if you already know how fighting games work, or if you sit down and really invest time and like, okay, what is this tutorial trying to teach me? Because, as someone who is brand new sitting down for the first time, you don't need everything that's in that tutorial. What you need instead is very simple stuff. The game needs to tell you, hey, it's okay if you miss some shit, if you fuck some shit up. Your goal is to beat them up and get their life bar down to 0. That's what fighting games are. And if, you try one of these techniques and it doesn't work or whatever, that's fine. You can always fall back on this simple thing that we taught you and this simple thing that we taught you. There's some more advanced stuff in our tutorial here. Don't have to worry about that. If this is all too confusing or if it's whatever, fall back on this simple stuff that we teach you. If you think about a single player game, you play God of War and it wants to teach you a new weapon. It puts some enemy who's resistant to your first weapon and you got to use your second weapon to beat him up. In single player, you can do stuff like, hey, you fight this guy and you beat him up, right? They teach you the basics. On the next fight, Zangief could show up and you could be playing Chun-Li. And Chun-Li, they could say, hey, Zangief's a big scary character. When he gets up close to you, he drops you and he does a lot of damage. So hit heavy punch or whatever with Chun-Li to keep him out. So you just start smacking him with heavy punch. You're like, wow, I'm doing a great job keeping him out. And then Zangief jumps in the air and then the screen freezes and they say, okay, Zangief can't get in on the ground. He's been thinking about the Ultimo Gringo instead of trying to get in through your ground normals. Zangief can't get in on the ground. So naturally, he's going to go up in the air. When Zangief goes up in the air, you can use Chun-Li's heavy kick to anti-air, and that'll stop him out of the air. So then the game unfreeze frames and you hit heavy kick to anti-air Zangief. And it's like, whoa, now you know how to anti-air and you know how to hit a ground button to keep Zangief out. Awesome. It just showed you something super important. Then it says Zangief's going to try to get in on the ground and in the air. Try to stop him and you have to hit him with your fierce and anti-air him when he jumps. That's something that will teach more fighting game players the flow of how a real human fights than almost anything else. And when you do it, you unlock Chun-Li's outfit, or you unlock some costume or some points or something like that. And I think if you instead break it down into, okay, now you've learned this much, you know enough to fight against a human. Once you're starting to have some trouble, revisit the tutorial or learn this next thing. I think that would be a lot better. Or even something like, now you know how to do this, look at these characters and pick who you think looks cool. And if you want to learn about them, click on their mission mode. Just a way for them to direct you from lesson to lesson. You shouldn't need to know, hey, I understand fighting games to know well enough that I should take a break here from this and then go do this and then come back. The burden shouldn't be on the player. If the tutorial needs the player's interpretation of what to do, instead of just being like, hey, here's a tutorial, it's structured in X or Y way, it works like this, now this is what you should do. Then that's a problem, I think. Obviously, most of the time, you will not find enough in the game to really help you learn stuff. And that's why there's YouTube videos and Twitch streams and stuff like that. Even when you type in stuff like fighting game tutorials or Street Fighter tutorials or whatever game you're interested in or learning, the League of Legends account has tweeted a 5-minute video that's how to play League of Legends. That is like very simple and like a very good beginner. Like these are the things you're looking at. If you look up like fighting game tutorials for like Street Fighter or something, one of the big issues is like you run into Street Fighter 5 Basics Part 1A, and it's basic beginner knowledge, and it's 30 minutes long on YouTube. It's one take. It's not cut up into anything. It's just, hey, what's up, guys? Fighting games have 6 buttons, and these 6 buttons are light, medium, heavy, whatever. And these buttons are used for all kinds of stuff. So when your opponent is doing a V-trigger combo, sometimes you can, it's like when fighting game content or any kind of tutorial content is created, it needs to be created in a way that's very short and sweet. Even when I was doing character breakdown videos, which was, they were not super cut up, they were not super edited footage. They weren't done in one take, and they were done with a script. And when you do stuff like that, my goal in those videos was 5 to 10 minute videos that explains a character's pokes, how their special moves work, explains the kind of character they are, and the main kind of like strategy or thing they're going to be doing. 5 to 10 minutes for a character, max, right? If it went longer than that, that character guide was probably not well thought out for me. When you start with fighting game tutorial guide, part 1 of 7, and it's 30 minutes long, you've already lost me. You lost me. Imagine how many brand new players you've lost. You guys don't understand, for a new player, when you jump into something like a fighting game or any genre, right? Because when I learn a new game, I have to go through the same process as anybody else, right? I have to be like, how the fuck does this game work? What the fuck do I do? To a beginner player, what's more important than frames is this attack is fast and this attack is slower, but it goes far. All you need to know is when you block this attack, you can hit them and they can't block. You know what happened to me? I typed in like Byakuya stuff to try to learn Byakuya, and like my videos came up. That's the worst thing that can happen. I was like, I'm brand new. How am I supposed to find shit if it's recommending me my stuff? I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just talking about Yoonji dropping the 3 months. Thanks very much. The amount of Eunice players would have tripled if after EVO was over, instead of retweeting Anime Titty, Makoto Fox just retweeted a bunch of guides and information about how to play Eunice. You did the community a disservice, you motherfucker. When Eunice ended, top 8 was over, people looked at the commentary duo of you and Brett, and they said, that Brett guy looks like a little weird. He looks like a Final Fantasy character. This Fox guy, he looks normal. I'll click on him on his Twitter, and he will surely teach me how to play Eunice. And they clicked on your Twitter, and they said, oh my fucking god. They didn't realize it was the reverse. The Final Fantasy character was their savior, and for the whole time they looked at you like, this looks like the normal one of the two. And then they all followed you because they're like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And I was looking for Briven, who's dropped the 2 months. Thanks very much. Anyway, my point is tutorials could be a lot better. I think currently they're not super great. And I think our fighting game content should always kind of keep in mind that our tutorials are a little weak in the beginning. There's so many things you want to tell them, but that's not what they need, right? They often need the most simple, basic bit of advice that you can give them. And a lot of the time that's, what the fuck attacks does my character even use? Even the move list doesn't tell you all their moves in a lot of games, right? It just tells you command moves and special moves. It doesn't tell you what your normal attacks are. If a game just told you, here are the most basic attacks that are great for your character, you should use these attacks, that gets you so much further than a tutorial that teaches you option selects. It gets most people so much further. It's just this big pile of info that they don't know what to do with. And you have to focus these tutorials and do a better job of turning the player's attention to something, teaching it to them, and rewarding them for learning it. The reason I try to learn new games all the time is to know what it feels like to be a beginner again. I just want to know what it feels like to be lost. And I want to work from that position of being lost to understanding what's happening, to feeling confident in my decisions and what I know about a game. And I know that my experience won't be the same as someone who's brand new, but it gives me a good enough feeling of what are some of the kind of shit that's happening that I can explain to somebody. As far as learning new genres go, I play everything. I play card games, I play MOBAs, I play racing games, I play FPS games a lot, battle royale games all the time. I've kind of learned most of the popular genres at least once. So I had this all kind of stems off of the last thing that we discussed, which is I said that I don't think fighting games are inherently harder to learn than X or Y or whatever genre. I think it's all about the same. There was a our games thread about the video, and I could tell that like 85% of the comments didn't watch the video. Many of the comments were very clearly, they would type things that I talked about in the video. One of the most interesting ones that I read was, the problem with learning fighting games is that you always play really good players. When you go to the arcade and you play against someone, you know, they're just winning against everybody. So you wait 20 minutes, you play against them, and then you lose, and then that's what happens. And I was like, where the fuck are you learning a fighting game in an arcade in 2019? Fighting games have had online play with matchmaking since 2009, before 2009. And in the year 2019, when you learn a new fighting game, you do it by playing a ranked mode online that matches you with similarly ranked players. They even matchmake you in offline Japanese sessions. It says if you're from 0 to X amount of CFN points on CFN, you're here. If you're from this to this, you're here. If you're diamond or above, you can play on any of these setups, and the setups at the very end are for the highest ranked players. So even if that was your excuse of, well, I live in Japan where there's still arcades, arcade tournaments still have matchmaking for casuals and stuff. There was some good comments in there that I wanted to talk about, but my hands are too fucked up to really type all day about it.